So again, this is the Capitol in Albany. In New York, we have seen some shifts in the legislature. Obviously, Governor Cuomo, a Democrat, is still in the governor's mansion. Democrats have already held majorities in both houses of the state legislature, but now they have a larger majority to the extent that they could now override a veto by Governor Cuomo if they, again, all agreed and chose to do so. Why is this critical, you might ask? Because, in fact, there are recent examples of Governor Cuomo vetoing Democratic legislation in respect to employment matters. Specifically, I know last year, 2019, there was a law that passed the legislature that would have added bereavement leave to the paid family leave law. So every employee who was eligible to use what's now up to 12 weeks of paid family leave a year could have used any or all of that time for bereavement leave due to the death of a fairly wide range of family members. I think probably for good reason, including tremendous resistance from the business community. The governor did veto that legislation, despite being led by Democrats in the legislature. Now, the Democrats would potentially have the ability to override that veto and enact such a law, whether Cuomo likes it or not. There will likely be a continuation of our recent, probably long-standing now, trend of more employee protections and employer regulations. Again, you could come at this from different sides, but I talk to employers all day long, and I don't know that I've ever had any of them tell me that they appreciate all the new restrictions and obligations and documentation requirements and leave hurdles to jump through in dealing with employees. The New York City Council, if you trace this back, has really become a leader nationwide in putting forward worker rights legislation. There are several examples of laws that are now state laws in New York that started in New York City. Some of these show up here as we go over the recent developments in New York State. So the paid sick leave law that went into place effectively at the beginning of 2021 built off of a New York City paid sick leave law. New York State now probably has the broadest anti-harassment laws in the country, where they've eliminated the severe or pervasive standard, which has long been a tenet of employment-related harassment legal doctrine. So where did that come from? Again, that started in New York City and the New York City human rights law. There are other items, some of which we'll touch on, that are laws now in New York City that it would not surprise me any if eventually, at the right time in their minds, the legislature of the state enacts on a statewide basis. What else do we know is going on in New York? The unemployment system has been stretched to the limit. I saw a statistic the other day. I think it said that the total claims for unemployment last year in New York State were what they would normally see over a 29-year period. So if you want to call that a 29-fold or a 28-fold increase in unemployment benefits in New York in 1 year. That has significant implications and will have to be dealt with in various ways, including some proposed legislation I'm about to describe. And also, beyond the unemployment system, the whole state budget depends on uncertain federal support. So if you've listened to Governor Cuomo talk at all recently, he has insisted that the federal government needs to provide state funding, state and local funding specifically, but the state funding he's now increasingly confident in because Biden is the president and the Democrats have the thin majority in the Senate. Still, however, what any further stimulus bill will end up looking like and how much funding comes to the state is obviously unclear at this point.